Hey there, very warm welcome to you. So what do you normally do on a Friday night during lockdown? Perhaps you end up watching a movie, or maybe you play some games with people you live with, board games, or something else. Catch up with friends, answer emails, whatever. But welcome to an alternative Friday night by the Brixton Buddhist community. Welcome to full moon puja or ritual. And here I am, my name is Viryanagha. I'm one of the teachers at Brixton Buddhist community, and here I am in Dana Prasada, which is a Buddhist residential community with two of my community members. So first we've got Maitranara.
Hi.
And we've got Adam.
Hello everyone.
So let us know in the chat box where you're tuning in from. We'll give you a quick shout out, we'll say hi before we get going. So I'll say a little bit more in a moment about what we're going to be doing tonight. But just want to remind you that before we get started, everything we run is on a donation basis. So if you'd like to give us a donation for the ritual at the end, you can. There's a link in there. There'll be a link in the chat box. Okay, so I'm going to just say a bit more about puja now, a bit more about what we're going to do tonight, and then we'll go on and actually do it. So I'll probably be talking for about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll probably we'll go through the ritual from there. Okay, so some of you may or may not have done puja or Buddhist ritual before, but what it is it's kind of a devotional exercise. It's a devotional practice, and it's there to kind of move us emotionally. So we have lots of practices that are using the mind, using our concentration, using our awareness. Some of them are quite imaginative, but also we need to get those emotions going. We need to get our hearts going. So this is what Buddhist ritual is about. It's about getting our emotions going. A lot like a good piece of theatre or a good movie. You know how you finish a movie and you're a good movie and you can be really emotionally moved. So this is what we'll be doing tonight. We'll be engaging in a collective exercise, collective practice to help us move us emotionally. And what we'll be doing tonight is a sevenfold puja, sevenfold ritual, and this goes through 7 stages, 7 parts, and each of these is like an act of a play, and it kind of moves us. Each one has an emotional mood attached with it, and the arc of it is kind of like a bit like a spiritual journey, really. You start off by noticing, recognizing the ideal, and you move on to moving towards the enlightenment experience. So we'll be doing that tonight. So tonight, I'll just say that we've got a particularly special night tonight because it's very common for Buddhists to do the puja, do a ritual on the full moon. So first of all, it was a full moon yesterday, so we've got a full moon puja. And usually in the times gone by, different Buddhist monks used to gather on the full moon night to practice together and do things like confession and so on. But this week in particular, yesterday was the Buddha Day or Wesak, so it's one of the biggest Buddhist festival, if you like, and it celebrates the Buddha's enlightenment over 2,500 years ago. So he was said to have been became enlightened in the full moon of May. So this was what this ritual corresponded to. So we're actually at Brixton Buddhist community. We're going to be having a special Buddha Day celebration actually a week on Saturday. So there's lots of other celebrations going on, and we'll be having ours a week on Saturday, partly due to programming and scheduling, but also so we get a full day to do that when we want to. But tonight we're going to be starting to evoke that mood, starting to celebrate the Buddha's enlightenment. And even if you're not a Buddhist, why you might be interested in that is because the Buddha's enlightenment represents a time when the Buddha basically elevated his consciousness to something that is beyond a normal human's consciousness. So you can just firstly kind of celebrate that as an achievement in itself, but also it represents the ideal of human growth, the ideal of human development. So if you at all have the idea that it's possible to grow and to develop, this is what you can emotionally connect with in this kind of period, a period where you're recognizing or celebrating the aspiration to move towards something more, something greater, or a better version of yourself. So that's what we'll be evoking tonight in the sevenfold puja. So to talk sort of a bit more in terms of format, in terms of structure, the Sevenfold Puja is mainly in English, so and it's 7 verses. So I'll read the verses, and Adam and Maitranara will join in with that. They'll do response to that, so they'll say it back to me. And if you want to, you can join in with that response at home. So that's how you can participate in the ritual. And there is one section in Pali. Pali is an ancient Indian language. And that section is the Refuges and Precepts. So it's the section which talks about Buddhist ethical principles. So so the reason that that's in Pali is, one, Pali is the language that's probably closest to what the Buddha actually spoke. So we're connecting back to that time. But also, it's the same Refuges and Precepts are done in Pali throughout the Buddhist world. So all Buddhist communities will do them in the same way. So we're connecting with other Buddhist communities as well. So they're done in. There's basically a salutation to the Buddha, to the Dharma, and to the Sangha, and then it's these ethical principles, and then there's a sort of translation in English afterwards. So you don't need to worry too much about what they mean. You'll get a sense of that. You'll get a flavour of that in the puja. A couple of other things that we'll do is we'll have a couple of mantras in between the verses, so between the first and second verse, and after the last verse. And mantras are kind of collective kind of exercises where we'll all join in together. So me or Adam will start one of those, and you can just join in. And the mantras are usually associated with certain Buddhist figures, either literal figures or archetypal figures. And the idea about doing them is when we do them, when we celebrate these, we're bringing to mind these qualities of these figures. So the 2 mantras that we're going to do tonight are the Shakyamuni mantra, the mantra of the Buddha. So again, we can bring to mind that quality of the enlightened mind, the development, the growth, and also Padmasambhava. So Padmasambhava is a figure very well worshipped in Tibet, well regarded in Tibet as the second Buddha. So he's someone who took the Buddhist teachings into Tibet. But he's particularly associated with overcoming our limitations and shortcomings, and overcoming our demons. So he's a really good figure to have in the mix as well. So we'll be doing those 2 mantras. And if you want to, if you've got some focus for your attention, perhaps you've got a small shrine or something that you want to focus your attention during the puja, and you can make an offering to that to kind of make a gesture towards that. So you could say you've got a little Buddha figure or a picture of a Buddha, you could offer a candle or a flower or a bit of incense to partly engage with that kind of devotional, respectful attitude that we're trying to cultivate in the puja. Okay, so just one final thing I'll tell you about, and then we can think about getting started. So the other thing is that there'll also be a reading as well. We'll also have a reading from, basically evoking what the Buddha's enlightenment state was a bit like. So back when he was said to be enlightened under the Bodhi tree, a tree obviously he was an Indian man in India, and he spent some time then after he became enlightened around the area. So I'll give a reading which is something about that time and those qualities. So I'll read that towards the end of the puja. You'll get a sense of when I'm doing that, and you can just listen to that. You can just let that wash over you. So with the whole puja, you don't have to worry too much about the words. Yeah. So the whole sense is that we just want to engage with this emotional state. Let them wash over you, and just see what happens emotionally. We just want to be receptive, be open, just participate. And see. And I must say, when I started doing puja, I wasn't that keen on it, to be honest with you. I was quite rationally minded, and I found it a bit hard to engage with. But actually, a lot of people, myself included, it's worth giving it a go, because actually, for me, it's become a really rewarding practice. It just helps me to get out of that rational state of mind and engage more physically and emotionally with my spiritual life, with my spiritual practice. Okay, so that's it. So we'll get started in a moment. I'll just say at the end of the puja, we'll have a few closing mantras, which we can just repeat. We'll do 3 times each. And then there's usually a little quiet space at the end, which is really wonderful. So we'll be doing quite a lot of chanting and repeating back. But then if you can just let there be a bit of quiet at the end, we'll try and stay as still as possible, as quiet as possible for 30 seconds or so. You can just really try to get a sense of that energy. There's sometimes a really good energy in the room after a puja. So we'll get a sense of that, and then I'll ring the final bell and we'll wrap up for the evening. Okay, so let's go back to full screen, and I'll just give you a few shout outs. So Joe, thanks for tuning in, Joe. We've got Emma as well, tuning in from Brixton. Alex from Clapham Junction. Pam as well. Jill, Anna. So all these people. So maybe you want to say a little hi to them.
Hello.
Great to have you all joining us for this puja. Okay, so if you get yourself set up now, so get yourself anything you need, and maybe make sure if you've got a little shrine, light up the candles, get yourself ready to go. And I'll just sit for a few minutes before we get started, and then we'll just go through the puja and call and response. Oh, I should just say I'll salute the shrine to start with as well. So let's just start by saluting the shrine, and we'll do that in call and response as well. Namo Buddhaya,
Namo Buddhaya,
Namo Dhammaya,
Namo Dhammaya,
Namo Sanghaya,
Namo Sanghaya,
Namo Namah,
Namo Namah,
Om,
Om,
Hum.
Om.
Okay, so just taking a deeper breath or two, engaging with your body, perhaps noticing the contact with the ground. You can just check your body for any areas of tension that you're used to holding. Shoulders, stomach, forehead, jaw. Just let those soften. Full Moon Sevenfold Puja. Firstly, worship. With Mandarava, Blue Lotus and Jasmine.
With Mandarava, Blue Lotus and Jasmine.
With all flowers pleasing and fragrant.
With all flowers pleasing and fragrant.
And with garlands skillfully woven.
And with garlands skillfully woven.
I pay honour to the princes of the sages.
I pay honour to the princes of the sages.
So worthy of veneration.
So worthy of veneration.
I envelop them in clouds of incense.
I envelop them in clouds of incense.
Sweet and penetrating.
Sweet and penetrating.
I make them offerings of food hard and soft.
I make them offerings of food hard and soft.
And pleasing kinds of liquids to drink.
And pleasing kinds of liquids to drink.
I offer them lamps encrusted with jewels.
I offer them lamps encrusted with jewels.
Festooned with golden lotus.
Festooned with golden lotus.
On the paving sprinkled with perfume.
On the paving sprinkled with perfume.
I scatter handfuls of beautiful flowers.
I scatter handfuls of beautiful flowers.
Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha.
Swaha. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni 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 Swaha.
Salutation. As many atoms as there are,
As many atoms as there are,
in the 1,000,000,000 worlds,
in the 1,000,000,000 worlds,
so many times I make reverent salutation
so many times I make reverent salutation
to all the Buddhas of the 3 eras,
to all the Buddhas of the 3 eras,
to the Siddharma
to the Siddharma
and the excellent community.
and the excellent community.
I pay homage to all the shrines
I pay homage to all the shrines
and places in which the Bodhisattvas have been.
and places in which the Bodhisattvas have been.
I make profound obeisance to the teachers
I make profound obeisance to the teachers
and those to whom respectful salutation is due.
and those to whom respectful salutation is due.
Going for refuge. This very day,
This very day,
I go for my refuge
I go for my refuge
to the powerful protectors
to the powerful protectors
whose purpose is to guard the universe.
whose purpose is to guard the universe.
The mighty conquerors who overcome suffering everywhere.
The mighty conquerors who overcome suffering everywhere.
Wholeheartedly also I take my refuge.
Wholeheartedly also I take my refuge.
In the Dharma they have ascertained.
In the Dharma they have ascertained.
Which is the abode of security against the rounds of rebirth.
Which is the abode of security against the rounds of rebirth.
Likewise in the host of bodhisattvas.
Likewise in the host of bodhisattvas.
I take my refuge.
I take my refuge.
Namo tassa.
Bhagavato arahato samma.
Call and response. Namo tassa.
Namo tassa.
Bhagavato arahato.
Bhagavato arahato.
Samma sambuddhassa.
Samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa.
Namo tassa.
Bhagavato arahato.
Bhagavato arahato.
Samma sambuddhassa.
Samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa.
Namo tassa.
Bhagavato arahato.
Bhagavato arahato.
Samma sambuddhassa.
Samma sambuddhassa.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Tatyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatyampi sanghang saranang gacchami.
Anatipata.
Anatipata.
Veremini.
Veremini.
Sekapadam.
Sekapadam.
Samadhyami.
Samadhyami.
Adinadana.
Adinadana.
Veremini.
Veremini.
Sekapadam.
Sekapadam.
Samadhyami.
Samadhyami.
Kamesu.
Kamesu.
Mechachara.
Mechachara.
Veremini.
Veremini.
Sekapadam.
Sekapadam.
Samadhyami.
Samadhyami.
Musavada.
Musavada.
Veremini.
Veremini.
Sekapadam.
Sekapadam.
Samadhyami.
Samadhyami.
Suramarya.
Suramarya.
Maja.
Maja.
Amadatana.
Amadatana.
Veremini.
Veremini.
Sekapadam.
Sekapadam.
Samadhyami.
Samadhyami.
Sadhu.
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 With deeds of loving kindness,
With deeds of loving kindness,
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With open-handed generosity,
With open-handed generosity,
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With stillness, simplicity, and contentment,
with stillness, simplicity, and contentment.
I purify my body.
I purify my body.
With truthful communication.
With truthful communication.
I purify my speech.
I purify my speech.
With mindfulness clear and radiant.
With mindfulness clear and radiant.
I purify my mind.
I purify my mind.
Confession of faults. The evil that I have heaped up.
The evil that I have heaped up.
Through my ignorance and foolishness.
Through my ignorance and foolishness.
Evil in the world of everyday experience.
Evil in the world of everyday experience.
As well as evil in understanding and intelligence.
As well as evil in understanding and intelligence.
All that I acknowledge to the protectors.
All that I acknowledge to the protectors.
Standing before them.
Standing before them.
With hands raised in reverence.
With hands raised in reverence.
And terrified of suffering.
And terrified of suffering.
I pay salutations again and again.
I pay salutations again and again.
May the leaders receive this kindly.
May the leaders receive this kindly.
Just as it is with its many faults.
Just as it is with its many faults.
What is not good, O protectors?
What is not good, O protectors?
I shall not do again.
I shall not do again.
Rejoicing in merit. I rejoice with delight.
I rejoice with delight.
In the good done by all beings.
In the good done by all beings.
Through which they obtain rest.
Through which they obtain rest.
With the end of suffering.
With the end of suffering.
May those who have suffered be happy.
May those who have suffered be happy.
I rejoice in the release of beings.
I rejoice in the release of beings.
From the sufferings of the rounds of existence.
From the sufferings of the rounds of existence.
I rejoice in the nature of the Bodhisattva.
I rejoice in the nature of the Bodhisattva.
And the Buddha.
And the Buddha.
Who are protectors.
Who are protectors.
I rejoice in the arising of the will to enlightenment.
I rejoice in the arising of the will to enlightenment.
And the teaching.
And the teaching.
Those oceans that bring happiness to all beings.
Those oceans that bring happiness to all beings.
And are the abode of welfare of all beings.
And are the abode of welfare of all beings.
Entreaty and supplication. Saluting them with folded hands.
Saluting them with folded hands.
I entreat the Buddhas in all the quarters.
I entreat the Buddhas in all the quarters.
May they make shine the lamp of the Dharma.
May they make shine the lamp of the Dharma.
For those wandering in the suffering of delusion.
For those wandering in the suffering of delusion.
With hands folded in reverence.
With hands folded in reverence.
I implore the conquerors desiring to enter nirvana.
I implore the conquerors desiring to enter nirvana.
May they remain here for endless ages.
May they remain here for endless ages.
So that life in this world does not grow dark.
So that life in this world does not grow dark.
The Buddha saw no self anywhere from the summit of existence downwards and came to tranquility, like a fire whose fuel had burnt out, by the eightfold path of supreme insight, which starts forth and quickly and reaches the desired point. Then, as his being was perfected, the thought arose in him, I have attained this perfect path, which was travelled for the sake of the ultimate reality by former families of great seers, who knew the higher and the lower of things. And that moment of the fourth watch, when the dawn came up, and all that moves or not moves was stilled. The great seer reached the stage which knows no alteration, the sovereign leader, the state of omnipotence. When, as the Buddha, he knew this truth, the earth swayed like someone drunken with wine. The quarters shone bright with crowds of siddhas, and the mighty drums resounded in the sky. Pleasant breezes blew softly. The heavens rained moisture from a cloudless sky. And from the trees there dropped flowers and fruit out of due season, as if to do him honour. At that time, just as in paradise, mandarava flowers, lotuses and water lilies of gold and beryl fell from the sky and bestrewed the place of the Shakya sage. At that moment, none gave way to anger. No one was ill or experienced any discomfort. None resorted to sinful ways or indulged in intoxication of mind. The world became tranquil as though it had reached perfection. Then for 7 days, free from discomfort of body, he sat, looking into his own mind, his eyes never winking. The sage fulfilled his heart's desire, reflecting that on that spot he had attained liberation. Then the sage, who had grasped the principle of causation and was firmly fixed in the system of impersonality, roused himself and, filled with great compassion, he gazed upon the world with his Buddha eye for the sake of its tranquility. Seeing that the world was lost in false views and vain efforts, and that its passions were gross, seeing too that the law of salvation was exceedingly subtle, he set his mind on remaining immobile. Then, remembering his former promise, he formed a resolution for the preaching of tranquility. Thereon he reflected in his mind how there are some persons with great passion and others with little passion. Then at that time 2 merchants of a passing caravan, being instigated thereto by a friendly deity, joyfully did obeisance to the seer with exalted minds, and were the first to give him alms. The sage then reflected his 2 teachers had minds capable of accepting the Dharma. But when he saw that both had gone to heaven, his thoughts turned to the 5 mendicants. Then, wishing to preach tranquility in order to dispel the darkness of ignorance, as the rising sun, the darkness, Gautama proceeded to the blessed city, which was beloved of Bhimaratha, and whose various forests are ornamented by the Vanarasi. Then the sage, whose eyes like a bull's, whose gait is like a rutting elephant's, desired to go to the land of the Kasi in order to convert the world, and turning his entire body like an elephant, fixed his unwinking eyes on the Bodhi tree. And now we'll have the Padmasambhava mantra.
Om Mahong Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Om. Om Mahong Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Om. Om Mahong Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Om. Om Mahung Vajra Guru 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 Padma Siddhi Om.
Transference of merit and self-surrender. May the merit gained
May the merit gained
in my acting thus
in my acting thus
go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings.
go to the alleviation of the suffering of all beings.
My personality throughout my existences,
My personality throughout my existences,
my possessions,
my possessions,
and my merit in all three ways,
and my merit in all three ways.
I give up without regard to myself,
I give up without regard to myself,
for the benefit of all beings,
for the benefit of all beings,
just as the earth and other elements
just as the earth and other elements
are serviceable in many ways
are serviceable in many ways
to the infinite number of beings
to the infinite number of beings
inhabiting limitless space.
inhabiting limitless space.
So may I become
So may I become
that which maintains all beings,
that which maintains all beings,
situated throughout space,
situated throughout space,
so long as all have not attained
so long as all have not attained
to peace.
to peace.
Closing mantras. Om Mani Padme Hum.
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 Om Marapajanadi.
Om Marapajanadi.
Om Marapajanadi.
Om Marapajanadi.
Om Marapajanadi.
Om Marapajanadi.
Om Vajrapani Hum.
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 Om Tare Tutare Ture Swaha.
Om Tare Tutare Ture Swaha.
Om Tare Tutare Swaha.
Om Tare Ture Swaha.
Om Tare Tutare Ture Swaha.
Om Tare Ture Swaha.
Om Amideva Hri.
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 Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha.
Om Mani Mani Mahamani Shakyamani Swaha.
Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha.
Om Mani Mani Mahamani Shakyamani Swaha.
Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Shakya Muni Swaha.
Om Mani Mani Mahamani Shakyamani Swaha.
Om Mahong Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum.
Om Mahom Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Om.
Om Mahong Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum.
Om Mahom Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Om.
Om Mahong Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Hum.
Om Mahom Vajraguru Padma Siddhi Om.
Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhi Swaha.
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 Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
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 that brings us to the end of our full moon puja. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for joining us for a bit of collective practice. Really good for us to do that as well. Just say before we we'll say goodbye. Just want to let you know about our next few events coming up. So tomorrow morning you can tune in on a Zoom call for Drop-in Dharma, which is a morning of Buddhist discussion. And then we've got our usual live streams on Monday and Wednesday. And then next Saturday we'll be celebrating, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, we'll be celebrating our Buddha Day celebration. So join us from 10 o'clock for a whole range of interesting activities, Sangha videos, a talk by Padmavajra, which he's giving, and all sorts of other things as well. Puja in the evening. It's going to be hosted by me and Matranara, and maybe Amlavajra if he's well enough, and a bunch of other things going on. So do tune in for that. So let's just say goodbye. Hope you enjoyed that. So it's goodbye from me. And,
it's goodbye from me.
Bye.
Good. Have a great evening.
Yeah, great evening. Take care.